Hello, Lisa Peterson here. Today, I'm going to talk about what to be thinking about if you have recently lost your home in the Los Angeles fires. I was in charge of over 1,000 earthquake claims after the Northridge earthquake back in 1994. I also was in charge of total loss fire claims when I was working for an insurance company way back in the 90s. I've confirmed that policies have changed, things are done differently. I have a friend who just retired from an insurance company, got the latest scoop. So I'm preparing this video with the information that I have that's up to date. And I'm hoping that this helps you not rush out and hire an attorney or not rush out and hire a public adjuster, because I want you to know that the process is built for you to be made whole depending on the insurance that you have. We can talk about that. I'm going to be very random in this conversation today and give you as much information as I can. And then if you have other questions, you can put them in the comments. I will answer them and potentially create additional videos to answer your questions. So my point is to, first of all, take a nice big deep breath and please, please, please focus on yourself, on your mind, making sure that you are doing everything you can to provide yourself a tremendous amount of self-compassion, because this is not easy. You are traumatized, most likely, and the process can feel very, very overwhelming. And so my hope is that this will help you not feel so overwhelmed. So let's start with my hope is that you have a insurance policy, a fire insurance policy on your home currently. You will want to get the information about what does that coverage look like. It's really helpful to know as early as possible. Like when I'm helping people and people are reaching out to me right now, I'm always wanting to understand, like, are you reasonably insured for your property, rebuilding that house? Because that's a big deal. That's something that you want to have a good sense of right away, because not everybody has enough insurance on their home. And again, if you have questions about that or you find that you're underinsured, happy to answer questions in the notes. But let's say that you have a $1 million rebuild insurance policy available to you. Your home was, I'm just going to use some examples of what I've recently talked to people. They had a home that was 1,800 square feet. They had a separate garage. You are looking at three types of coverage. Number one would be the temporary living expenses, which is whatever additional expenses that you're going to have to incur beyond the mortgage that you're paying or the property taxes or the insurance that you're paying on that house. Right now, the additional expenses that you're going to need to pay are going to be covered through that temporary living expense. So keep all of your expenses for food, for lodging, for uh, different types of transportation. Like you can track all of those things. Like you might have to be driving more than you would have had you been in your house to your workplace, for example. Keep track of everything, but the temporary living expense, pretty cut and dry, as long as you are documenting why you're making the choices that you're making. Once you talk to your adjuster, it's good to communicate with them, like, this is what we found, this is what it's going to cost, this is why we're choosing this option, and making sure that it's kosher with the adjuster. But that's one part of your coverage. The other part of your coverage is the structure. The structure covers your main home and the rebuilding of the house. That limit, subject to policy limits, is what's going to kind of decide what you've got to work with. But just because you have, let's say, a $2 million property rebuild coverage, if your home does not cost $2 million to rebuild, you're not just going to get $2 million, right? So just want to make that clear. It's going to be whatever it costs to rebuild your house. And in a disaster, often the costs of rebuilding can go up. So even if you ultimately find out that it's going to cost a certain amount now, a year and a half from now, that price may be different. Just know that that's what the insurance company is used to handling. Don't get worried about that. That's going to be part of the claims experience. So you've got temporary living expense, you've got your structural coverage, And then you also may have additional structures that are covered. And then you have your personal property. So the thing that I always like to talk about is early on with a fire claim, the thing that I would most recommend focusing on is the personal property. Most insurance companies are going to give you an app where you are going to be able to go in and enter all of the personal property that you owned that was in that house. And as time passes, it can be a little bit more difficult. And so my recommendation is that while it's fresh, first of all, look in your phone, look to see if you have videos of your house. If you did, that's going to make it a lot easier to recreate all of your personal property. But as soon as possible, I encourage you to create a spreadsheet, even without the app from the adjuster that you'll ultimately be getting, and start to go through mentally each and every room. Think about what was on the floor, what furniture was in the room, what's on the walls, what's on the window coverings, what's in the cabinets, what's in the drawers, what's in the closet. Like, you want to start to write down every possible thing that you can think of. You don't have to do prices right away. Just put that brain, to work to list all the things that you can possibly come up with and have that available to you, because you're going to keep thinking about things and adding them to the list for each of the rooms. So another thing that you can do is, like, a lot of our kitchens are very similar, and it's hard to remember all the things in our kitchen. But you might have a friend who lets you come over to their house and you go through their kitchen to see what are all the things they have that will help you remember what was in your kitchen. Write those lists out of everything that you can remember. And I will say this because, just as an adjuster, the way that it works is they're going to be paying you out the actual cash value, the thrift shop value of the things that you list on your forms. So if they're very old items, they're going to be heavily reduced in what they pay out to you at first. But if they're newer, then they're going to pay you closer to that amount, right from the get-go. So my suggestion is definitely pay attention to what is the market value of the things you had, and know that most policies cover replacement cost coverage, which says once you go and buy those things, then you can provide information back about what they actually cost you, and you can be reimbursed additional money at that time. We'll see in a disaster if they want you to do that or not, but typically that's how it's managed. Amazon use different websites that help you pull up prices. Eventually, once you finish your list, you're going to also be going out and looking at what are the prices for me to replace these things and putting that in your lists, because you're going to do all of that research. They're not going to do that for you. Typically, you're going to be in charge of going back and figuring out what the costs are for things. Let's see, what else? The other thing is that a lot of times, I think in personal property, my experience is that we really it's easy to miss a lot of stuff. And so, uh, don't do this process in a vacuum. Get some friends to help. Like I said, go over to friends' houses, have them ask you questions, go through their own closets. Uh, Remembering all the t-shirts you have, remembering all the underwear you have, remembering all the jeans you have, and like how much those jeans are. Like, it is worthwhile, because personal property adds up over time, and you want to make sure that you are trying your best to put everything you possibly can down. And obviously, you're going to have time to add to this list, but many times too, what will happen is an adjuster will come out and meet with you, and they may do a statement, they may record a conversation. And if you've already thought through all of this before you meet with the adjuster, then you're going to be able to be like, hey, there was a grand piano in the corner of this room, there was these other things. Like, you want to be as comprehensive as you possibly can be in that recorded statement, because if you were to miss out on expensive items that don't get mentioned until several months from now, that's going to be a red flag that indicates that something's funky. So take the time now to document, like oh my gosh, I forgot I had my grandmother's watch in that drawer. That watch is a Cartier watch and it's worth, this much money. Like, remember those things, put them down before you do a recorded statement so that you're bringing it up. On that point, one of the challenges is if you had expensive jewelry, silver, furs, there are riders that hopefully you had for those more expensive items because the policy will not pay out more than a certain amount of money for jewelry, for example. And a lot of people have more jewelry than they have accommodated for. So just you know, pay attention to that. You might be at policy limits for jewelry because you didn't get an extra rider, and that's just the way it goes. Same thing goes if you had a lot of cash in your home and it burned up. It's very little that they will pay you in reimbursement of cash. So good to know. Let's see. So, personal property, any other questions? Let me know what's coming up for you, but I'm going to move to the structure and kind of what to think about. Now, some of the homes might have been brand new. You have plans with an architect. That's going to save a lot of time. Wonderful. But most people are going to not have plans for their house. They are going to potentially have pictures of their house on Zillow because it was recently sold. So see what's available on Zillow. But the insurance company also can access satellite to see like the roof line of your house when it was still standing. That will help them have an idea of the square footage. They will have an idea of that. They will also be able to go out and measure the foundation of the house when the time is possible for them to visit the site. They will work with you to recreate what that house looked like, what the materials were like, what kind of cabinets did you have, what kind of plumbing fixtures did you have, what kind of glass did you have. Like, all of these details are going to come out in the process because the contract between you and the insurance company is that they are responsible for getting you back to where you were, not beyond where you were, but where you were. And so their goal is to make sure that, if your house was 1,800 square feet, that's the house that they will be estimating the cost to rebuild for you. So any kind of diagrams, like a great exercise would be to get out a piece of paper and do your best to draw a diagram of how the house looked and where are the rooms. Some of us are spatially challenged. It's not easy to do, but do your best because all of that's going to save time if there are no plans for your house. It's going to make their job easier because you're already showing them it was 3 bedrooms. This is where the bathrooms were. This is where the kitchen is. This is how big the kitchen was, approximately. Whatever you can do to help them is going to save time. They may also, back to the recorded statement, the adjuster may take a recorded statement where they ask you to walk you through the house and tell you what you see, what kind of flooring, what was on the walls, what's the artwork like, what were your personal property, as well as the all the features of your home. The point is that the insurance company, the easier you make this for them to recreate the size and the structure and the design of the home, the faster it is that they're going to be able to estimate what it's going to cost you, the faster they're going to get you a check. That check is going to help you start working on the rebuild process. Personal property can start to be paid out as soon as you start to provide them information. Sometimes that's a really big deal because many of us do not realize, because we've been buying stuff for many, many years, how much that adds up to. But that can give you a big boost of cash to help you in getting everything ready for rebuilding the house, for buying your clothes, for buying all the things that you need just to live comfortably right now. So personal property first, structure second. If you had separate structures, then your policy may have a separate structure feature. So the separate garage is going to be up to a different policy limit, which is helpful. Okay, so that's about the claim part. Now, what I also want to talk about is dispelling myths about adjusters trying to give you the least amount of money possible. Like, That is not what their job is. Their job is to make you whole. So please tune out the noise. Most insurance companies are not operating that way. They want you to be happy and safe and feel like the process is moving forward. They want you to be in good shape. They're not trying to make sure that you get less than what you deserve. But when you first meet with the adjuster, my biggest recommendation is that you are kind, you are friendly, you are welcoming to this person that you're going to be working alongside of, that it goes a long way to be respectful, because they see people who come in right from the get-go and have a defensive attitude, who are questioning them, who are questioning their authority. Like, that is not setting up a good relationship. And you do not want to be the person that they don't want to talk to. You want to be the person that they want to pick up the phone, they want to help. And I've just noticed that when people are really angry and mean and disrespectful, the adjuster will do they have a lot of discretion to have your phone call be the last returned. You don't want to be that person. You want to be someone that they think it's pleasant to work with and helpful, and it will go so far in your experience with them. You will love the relationship, and you will love the way that most of these people are going to support you when you approach it from that way. And again, this is an insider perspective. I know hundreds of adjusters. I have never met anyone who didn't want to do the right thing and help people. Sometimes they do need help. Sometimes they are overworked. These are going to be people that have a lot of claims that they're handling. It is going to be stressful for them, but it's not that they don't want to help you, and it's good to make their job easy. The more you can do on your own of documenting all of your personal property, figuring out the layout of your house, doing a map, trying to estimate what the size of those rooms were, like anything you can do on your own is going to save time and headaches and make it a lot easier for everyone and everyone concerned. So there's a ton more that I could probably talk about, but I feel like that's enough to get you started. Please ask me questions. I'm happy to help, either in the notes or create another video, but it is not an easy process, but you can make it far easier by following what I've recommended here and make this a somewhat pleasant experience, because you feel like you are being listened to, you are being taken care of, you are getting the money that you need to take care of yourself today, and then get that process started with your new home and building again. There are other options beyond the scope of this conversation, like what if you want to just ultimately sell the lot and buy another house? Many insurance policies will allow you to actually do that. Again, let me know if that's something you're thinking about. I can create a video just for that. So many options, but I hope this has been helpful. Signing off.